Hello, my name is Kirioth, and today we're going to talk about a tasty, delectable little rumour. Now, it's an interesting one, and we're just going to go straight in, but this can be a little bit different in a way. So, The Battle for Mars. It is a box set that is apparently going to drop around March time, sometime in March, which, should that possible leaked release schedule that we talked about a couple of weeks ago be true, would line up nicely with the Necron Codex, which is also supposed to be in March. Now, this leaked schedule doesn't really mention anything about a box set in March, so that is maybe a point against the schedule, but the lining up of this box set and the Necrons Codex would be interesting because this box set, The Battle for Mars, would be Necrons versus Adeptus Mechanicus. That's pretty cool. I hope you agree with me that that's pretty cool. The thing is, I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know whether it's true or not. You can make all kinds of guesses, obviously, but it could be accurate, it could be a load of old scrollogs. It's kind of difficult to tell. There are certain things that I think go against it in terms of, I guess, believability. At the same time, though, I really want it to be accurate. I really want this one to actually be true. And there is a couple of reasons for that, which is what we're going to go into, because, to be honest, I don't feel that there's enough information to make a properly informed decision, and really the implications of such a box are the most interesting thing about it to me, regardless of whether it's true or not, although frankly, I really hope it is. So, The Battle for Mars. Necrons versus Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, straight away, the concept of it I really like, because as far as I know, from what I can remember, and I could be completely wrong, and if I am wrong, then please do let me know in the comments below, tell me the thing I've forgotten, because I've forgotten it, clearly. To the best of my knowledge, from what I can remember, there hasn't been a box set, like a little mini campaign thing, like a named versus box set, that hasn't involved Space Marines. Now, I've been trying to rack my brain thinking about what other ones we've had, and these things have been going back a good number of years now, so I may well have missed some out whilst I've been thinking about it, but the notable ones that I can think of, or at least the most recent ones on top of that, is I can remember vaguely, quite a while ago, I believe it was Space Marines versus Orcs, because that's where that quality Death Chopper model came from, that they never released separately for some reason. If you go on the Games Workshop site, it's still the garbage old one instead of the nice sleek one. I can't remember what the name of that box was, though. I can remember I believe it was Dark Vengeance, where it was Dark Angels versus Crimson Slaughter. I can remember that. Again, because I saw the models for the Space Marines, the Chaos Space Marines in that box, and I was like, oh my god, if they redo the whole Chaos line to look like that, that'd be amazing! And then they just never fucking did it. Why? I don't know, because they look way better than normal Chaos Space Marines. Why would you not make them all like that? Who knows? Who really knows? We've had Space Wolves versus Orcs, I think that was Sanctus Reach, wasn't it? We've had the Raven Guard versus Tau, and we've had the Blood Angels versus Tyranids as well. I can't think of any that haven't had Space Marines. As far as I'm aware, all these box sets have had something in common, which is that it's been Space Marines versus other. You've got to have the Power Armoured boys in there somewhere, or it's just not a box set from Games Workshop. And that's one of the things that makes this so interesting to me. We've had other boxes that have featured alien races, we've had other boxes that feature Xenos, but actually having a box that is completely devoid of the poster boy for 40k is, frankly, quite a brave move. It's quite a big step for Games Workshop. Now, you probably think to yourself, well, it's not that brave because people are going to buy it anyway. It's putting their faith in two factions that until now have not had a solo thing. I don't think Necrons have been in a box set with anyone else, and I don't think Adeptus Mechanicus have either. By pitting them against each other and not having any sort of power armor presence, that's genuinely something new. That's genuinely Games Workshop trying something different to their standard practice, which, if it is the case, should absolutely be encouraged, because it's good for any number of reasons. Firstly, I think it does Games Workshop good, and I think it does the player base good to remind everybody that the Imperium is not Space Marines. Yes, there are a shed load of Space Marines. There are a metric fuck ton of Space Marines all over the place. People love Space Marines, they buy them, they paint them, you cannot go anywhere without seeing them. But they are not the Imperium alone. There are other factions in the Imperium. Some of them, admittedly, are neglected as hell, Sisters of Battle. Some of them are newer in terms of tabletop presence, in the form of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and some of them are kind of comfortably in the middle, in the form of the Imperial Guard. There's not been anything particularly new for the Imperial Guard for a while, but at the same time they're not languishing in the depths of despair that the Sisters of Battle are, and they're not quite as fresh as AdMech themselves. The Imperium is actually quite a lot of factions all put together. They're one of the, in terms of ranges that all come together to fight, they're the big player, as of course they would be, because part of the central narrative of 40k is of course Imperium versus Chaos, and then Imperium versus everybody else that isn't Chaos as well. I think it's good to remind people of that, genuinely, because I think it's an excellent reminder that yes, you can play Space Marines, but you do realise there's all this other stuff as well. And Adeptus Mechanicus is an interesting army to me. It's got a different flavour to everything else that the Imperium has. It has its own unique style that I don't really feel like anything else in the 40k range as a whole comes close to. That weird mix of kind of almost, if I say gothic and sort of baroque at the same time, there's going to be people going, those are two separate I know they're two separate things, but you know what I mean. They have a different feel entirely to other Imperium forces, and actually placing faith in them to be part of the driving force behind selling a box set without the support of the boys in power armor, it's kind of a big step. Might not seem like it, but it is. There's also the inclusion of Necrons. Now, obviously, we've had other box sets that have featured alien races, but this would set an interesting precedent for future box sets, for future kind of miniature campaigns, for named battles. We could actually start to conceivably see, should it do well, not just Necrons versus AdMech or Xenos versus an Imperium force that isn't Space Marines. We could actually start to properly see Xenos versus Xenos. We could see interesting mixes, stuff that we don't really get told about all that often. One of the things that I think holds Xenos back in terms of army development and in terms of story development is a relative lack of interest compared to Space Marines. Now, I know that there are plenty of people interested in Xenos, but the way that Games Workshop push the narrative for 40k, the way that they focus quite heavily on Space Marines in particular, means that Space Marines are always at the forefront. They're always the things that get the most attention, and as such, they are the things that get the most attention from Games Workshop. It would be really nice to see, it would be nice to believe, it would be even nicer to see Games Workshop look at where they're focusing their efforts and say to themselves, okay, but if we took a fraction of the attention that we pay to this particular faction and we focused it on spreading attention outwards to other races in our universe, what would happen? You know, it would be nice for that to actually be a thing whereby there is a conscious effort to drive people towards the I'm not going to say like the fringe part of 40k, because for people who are like invested in the hobby, there isn't really a fringe part. But for someone who's new to the hobby, for somebody who, like, for instance, doesn't know a huge amount about the lore, they only know that they've seen Space Marines and Space Marines look cool. Games Workshop actually showing them other armies in a showcased setting, in a this force versus this force, the epic battle of whatever the fuck we're going to call it, that adds legitimacy to the other factions in the universe. And of course, they are already legitimate because they're there and they're supported. But I don't think you can underestimate the effect that a company can have by telling, especially more recent additions to their user base, you should look at this, because people will take notice. The setting itself, the Battle for Mars, I mean, I hope it's true, simply because it's an interesting it's an interesting setting, it's an interesting idea, it's an interesting clash between forces that I don't think get enough of the spotlight. I mean, the Necrons and the Admech are, I'm not going to say two sides of the same coin, that's not accurate at all, but they have an interesting kind of, I feel there's like an interesting parallel there that would be fun to explore, and a battle between the two would be full of flavour and cool stuff happening. I kind of want this to be true. I want this to be true, and not necessarily just because it's like, oh, that'd be a cool box, but more because of the implications that could have in a wider way on the hobby. Like, more of a focus on Xenos factions, more of a focus on stuff that is not necessarily clad in power armor, an actual proper tabletop development of different armies, properly different armies, not Space Marines versus other, but other versus other, a proper development of those stories, because we don't get those enough. As I say, I just don't know if it's true, but I really hope that it is. Part of me is kind of at that point where it's not even a case of like, I want to buy this. I want to see it happen because I want to see it succeed, and I want it to be a catalyst for more things like it, more focuses on different factions and different stories outside of the scope of Space Marines versus Chaos Space Marines, Imperium versus Chaos, you know? But the question is, what do you think? Do you think it's likely? Do you think it's unlikely? Is there a shred of truth to it, or is it just a load of old scrollox? Could it actually be an interesting catalyst for change in the way that we see Games Workshop do these box sets? Or do you think it could, if it exists, just be a one-off and we'll back to the standard fare of Space Marines versus whoever this time? I'll be interested to hear what you think about this one, because I think it's an interesting topic outside of just the rumour element itself. I think it's an interesting topic to dive into. So let me know what you think in the comments below. In the meantime, feel free to click any of these things you see. Oh, I nearly made it to the end of the video without coughing, and then I nearly went. Patreon, subscribe, videos, all of that shit. Click if you like, don't click if you don't want to, and I will see you for the next video. Toodaloo.